we're in the middle of not an evolution, but really a revolution. We went decades by holding on to a model that as revenues grew and the enterprise changed, the one area that didn't really change was how we looked at our athletes.
Covering this issue the last few months has been like putting together a puzzle while you've had a few drinks and you're trying to juggle knives.
I don't think anyone has a crystal ball, so what's going to happen? As I mentioned earlier, you got to be agile and be able to adapt. But with that being said, from Troy on up through the rest of the leadership of the university and the state and everything else, I think everyone is on the same page, and whatever needs to happen is going to happen.
Nebraska is the reason that a lot of the team has such a big following, and the fans and the volleyball community are just so passionate about Husker volleyball, Husker sports, and it's been a huge reason why we've been able to kind of have the opportunities that we have.
Being at a place like Nebraska, we have a lot of great things. We've been the first in a lot of areas. NIL is the same and is going to be the same, whether it's rev sharing or whatever this new model takes.
The one thing that history will tell you is that those who do not embrace change quickly fall backwards in college athletics. Whether it's change in the style of offense, the style of defense, whether it's change in the way we coach, change in the way we recruit, or now change in the model of compensation. The name of the game in competing in college athletics has changed. And whether we like the role of collectives or not, or the pay-for-play model that exists because of the collectives, it is here and it is here to stay.
Without getting too detailed, right, on how an athletic department's finances work, is they are nonprofits, basically, and so they have to spend the money that comes in. And as the money grew with football, specifically through TV contracts, athletic departments became more and more cash flow, had more and more cash flow coming in, and they had to spend that, and they pumped it back in to the athletic departments, a lot of it in women's sports, some of it in salaries, facilities, right? Because they could not, according to the NCAA rule, pay players. And so they had to keep pumping this money back through. And what it led to was negative attention from the courts and from politicians who saw that, who saw $10 million coaching salaries and new gaudy facilities and said, wait a second, shouldn't some of this money go to athletes?
I think what everybody did not anticipate at the time was collectives, and how NIL, and maybe this is what everyone feared, how NIL would evolve into more of a pay-for-play model than really the true value of monetizing your worth or your value, like everyone in the country has. That's the great part of being in America, right? We all have a chance to monetize our value, but this became more than that.
A major revenue sharing breakthrough in college athletics.
And I tend to believe in 5 years we'll look at NIL like we look at cost of attendance, and it won't even be a factor like it with all the hand wringing we have today. And eventually it'll be that way with revenue sharing as well. It'll be part of the norm. But higher education is not like change as an enterprise, and this is the biggest change that really it has happened in any of our lifetimes around college athletics.
Ever since I was a freshman, just because we didn't know how it was gonna pan out, we kind of had like team rules for it. Just initially, I think it was just no NIL discussion once we walk into Bob Devaney. And I feel like especially for that first year, like it was good to have that kind of like that line.
If you were to talk to athletic administrators who were at the top of the sport 10, 20 years ago, now they would probably tell you, we wish we would have loosened our rules early on. And that way we could have controlled how this happens instead of letting it be controlled by the courts.
It is a new day in college athletics, Dan. Schools can actually themselves pay athletes.
Rewind the clocks back to 2021. The policy coming from the NCAA related to institutional involvement was, none. I think most institutions and schools and staff members found out pretty quick that's just not feasible. If we really want to do a service to our athletes, we are with them step by step in all that we do, right? Nutrition, strength, coaching, academics, social media, but we can't be with them every step of the way and then not be with them for NIL.
Yeah, I've known Troy for a while. He's been pretty deeply ingrained in the NCAA legislative process and all of this NIL stuff. I think he was a member of the NCAA Transformation Committee a couple years ago that handled a lot of these things, a lot of these changes. And he's one of the athletic directors out there who certainly gets it, I like to say. He understands where college athletics has been, where it is now, and where it will go. And so I think in his opening press conference at Nebraska, he was very clear of what's coming.
Success now is about innovation in NIL. If you think the last 5 years in college athletics have been wild, the next 5 years are going to put it to shame. I can promise you this, Nebraska will lead. We will not follow, we will lead.
With Troy, what you see is what you get.
He's been very vocal about the support for 1890, and Troy is constantly trying to find ways, to better fundraise and get the donor base and fan base more engaged with NIL, and that's great to see.
You're going to see me wearing 1890 stuff as much as I wear Nebraska stuff because it's about this. Recruitment and retention.
NIL is the key differentiator right now in recruiting and retaining talent. Him being here, wanting to be all in on NIL, working with 1890, our collective, has been great, but it also helps to have that one consistent message to our fans, right? About, hey, when we partner with someone, that means they're part of us, they're part of Husker Nation, and that's an important message to our fans as well.
He understands the culture, and I think that's so important, coming in here and really understanding the culture, and he does.
Nebraska became one of the greatest brands in college sports for one reason, because we won. Because in '69, Devaney hired a strength coach when nobody knew strength coaches were ever going to be important. It's because we took initiatives with our student athletes time and time again. But today, it's more than strength, it's more than nutrition, it's more than even the degree. Success is about our collective.
Collectives really sprouted up, summer 2021, and it was a result of the NCAA changing the interim policy related to NIL. And the best way I think to describe collectives is there's a lot of fans or donors or individuals who support programs, and they want to support NIL because they want to give to the athletes, but they might not have anything to do for it, right? Because that's part of NIL. There has to be a quid pro quo. 1890 and similar collectives, they have stepped in to be the hub of a place where all fans of a school can get together, donate money, and then 1890 helps find activations and different activities for the athletes to earn that money.
I said when I got here, you're either trying to help us win or you're not. And if you're trying to help us win, I'm getting on your bus and you get on mine, and the collective is here to help us win. So I'm going to be as good a partner as I can possibly be to anybody and everybody that's helping put us in a position to win.
We started this because we felt that it was going to be an important component to athletics by retaining and also recruiting the athletes that our coaches need.
I think 1890 does a lot for all Husker sports, but I think they do really good with bringing in the community, and a lot of athletes across the country involved with NIL. You don't see a lot of that nonprofit work or just giving back to children. And so I think it's nice for us as athletes to have that experience in the community and with nonprofits and with local stuff like that, just because that's something special about Nebraska.
So this is where the 1890 staff meets with those players and families. It's also a place that will bring donors up for different private events, whether it's a tailgate before a football game or before a basketball game, volleyball game, whatever it might be.
And it's located close to the campus, so they can work with all the student athletes and in all of their fulfillment of their obligations.
I mean, we're literally right across the street from campus. It can't get any more convenient for those student athletes, and that was the reason for us building this out.
What makes the social media and what makes the clips, right? We see somebody pull up in a Lamborghini or somebody pull up in a brand new car wearing gold headphones and people think, well, that's spending to excess. But for every one of those, there are kids who, one, send money home. You know, not all of these kids came from two-parent homes. Not all of these kids came from even the lower middle class. They're helping support their families while they're in college getting their degree, flying the family in to see their games. The list goes on and on.
We're in what I like to call like a transformation, of college athletics. Probably 3 years into maybe a eight-year transformation process. I like to describe it that major college sports is kind of breaking free from the amateurism into a professional type of system.
The reason why there's a difference between college athletics and professional athletics as it relates to a salary cap comes back to that whole discussion we had about antitrust. Those salary caps at the professional level have all been collectively bargained for. Collectively bargaining is an exemption to antitrust taking effect. If you have the employer and the union collectively bargaining to cap wages, cap salaries, cap benefits, etc., that's allowed under the Antitrust Act because it was collectively bargained for. The only other way you can get exemption from an antitrust claim in the Antitrust Act is a statutory exemption from Congress.
The details around the settlement in the new model, the revenue share model, are slim. There's not a ton of people that know a lot of the really intricate details right now. Soon we'll have more of that released, but right now everybody's kind of scrambling for answers.
Like any business and any industry that's really new, the market dictates a lot of what you do as a company and how you run your business, and you have to adapt to that. So I think, the collectives that are able to pivot and adapt best to the market post-settlement of the House case are going to be the ones that succeed and help their institution succeed as well.
We've gone from NIL to basically this next evolution of NIL, which is direct revenue sharing, and it's probably not going to stop there.
The recruits that are signing here in the next few months that are 25 grads, they will be under this new set of, and they're asking questions. They want to know what the answer is. And the answer that we can give them right now is, look, we're all in. I don't even know what that means yet. Nobody knows what all in means, but we're all in.
The base of this state and this community is ag-based. It's the farmers and the ranchers that set the culture of the state, if you will. And I think that is permeated through the entire state and the university. And I think the athletic department really embodies that. It's a hardworking, no-nonsense type of operation.
The thing about athletics is these 4 years will prepare them to be successful for the next 40. And in some ways, if we're doing all these things really right, these 4 years, we're preparing the next generation of people who are going to lead this country in a really, really spectacular way.
At the end of the day, it's kind of like being a student athlete. You have to manage school and volleyball, and then this is just kind of like having a part-time job. You have to manage all three, and it can get difficult at times, but I feel like we've also gotten to the point where we know how much we can handle, and if a deal is going to be too much for us, then I feel like for the majority, a lot of the team knows I'm not going to be able to juggle that along with competing for a Big Ten championship and a national championship.
We are in a great spot here in the state of Nebraska where our legislature and the governor's office wanted to ensure that all schools in Nebraska had a NIL state law that was advantageous to each school, so we can recruit and retain the best athletes that we can.
Athletes don't come here, coaches don't come here. You don't take these jobs to not win, to not have success. And so not only do you want to be here, but are you positioned to succeed? We're more well positioned than I ever could have dreamed.
If you're at a place like Nebraska, you probably feel like you're about resource-wise in as good a position you've ever been.
It's so important for our community, the state, all of our employees. It's an economic engine for the state. Nebraska football is synonymous with Nebraska. I mean, anywhere you go, not just in this country, but in the world, people ask about Husker athletics.
When we talk about brand equity, the brand is really about what people believe. It isn't about what you are, it's about what people believe you are. And that belief in the brand is going to be what allows us to succeed.